Burner count, obviously. Get ready to hate me. There were 6 of us, a lazy orbit around a couple of bigger personalities, mostly Mark. Funny, loyal, emotionally competent in a way that made people project onto him. You either wanted to date him, be like him, or stay close enough to benefit from his approval. I was the one he called at 2 a.m. after breakups. I was the one who edited his personal statements, who listened to his endless apartment hunt dramas, who knew which stories he exaggerated and which ones he told quietly. I was the one who saw him clearly. And then one day, he brought Chloe. She was soft-voiced, with deliberate movements, like someone who'd spent a lot of time being underestimated and decided not to waste energy correcting it. When she came to one of our group dinners, she barely spoke, just listened. Mark sat next to her and reflexively checked in. You okay? Need anything? I'd never seen him do that for anyone else. The others liked her immediately. She's grounded, one said. Not trying too hard, said another. And me? I smiled, complimented her earrings, asked where she got her bag. Then I went home and reread old messages from Mark, the ones where he said, "You're my favorite person I'm not allowed to love." And I thought about what changed. A few days later, I started small. Chloe had made some throwaway comment at dinner about being done with apps. I knew someone in our group who had seen her profile recently. I asked him to send a screenshot. Then I showed it Mark. I thought she said she wasn't using apps anymore. Maybe it's old, or maybe she just forgot to mention it. I thought it would work. He stared at it, frowned slightly, but said nothing. Just, thanks for telling me. The next week they were still together. Not just together, closer. He started bringing her more often. She didn't dominate conversations, but she had a kind of gravity. People leaned in when she spoke. Mark stopped texting me random things. He used to send photos of street dogs or weird signs or screenshots of songs he thought I'd like. That dried up. So, I tried again. One night, after a group hangout, I offered to help clean up the bar tab. Chloe was in the restroom. I took her phone from the table, turned the screen just enough to see her passcode when she unlocked it minutes later. Later that week, I used it. I borrowed a friend's old Android and installed a message scheduling app. I cloned her phone number using a spoofing site. It's disturbingly easy. Then I queued up a message for Mark, set to send in the middle of the night. It said, "I don't think I can keep pretending with him." That was it. Vague, hurtful, enough to plant something. The message sent at 3:18 a.m. I waited. But Mark didn't bring it up. At first, I thought he hadn't seen it. Then I wondered if he had, but didn't want to give me the satisfaction. Or worse, maybe she denied it and he believed her. Either way, nothing changed. Chloe stayed, he stayed. If anything, they got more comfortable. They started making plans. Future trips, joint furniture purchases. He used the phrase, "next year," in front of her. I realized the mistake I'd made. I was treating her like a weak point. She wasn't. She was a lock. So I switched tactics. The next time she messaged me, a polite, casual note about Mark's birthday gift, I used it. I replied warmly. We had a back and forth. I asked how she was handling his family. She said they're nice but intense. And I waited 2 days, then screenshotted the conversation and sent it to Mark. She reached out kind of out of nowhere, made me wonder if she's feeling out of place. He didn't reply immediately. When he did, it was short. "She's been anxious lately. I think she just wants to be liked." I waited again. 2 weeks later, we had a group game night. Chloe didn't show. Mark said she wasn't feeling well, but his voice was off. He drank more than usual. At the end of the night, when I was putting away glasses, he stood next to me and said, "Do you ever feel like someone's lying, but you can't tell which one of you it is?" I looked at him and said, "Only when I care too much." He blinked, nodded, and went to bed. A week later, he told me they'd broken up. "She just didn't trust things," he said. Thought I was too close with people from before her. He meant me. I nodded, said I was sorry, offered to give him space. He shook his head. I think I need the opposite. The others called it sad, said Chloe had seemed good for him, that maybe he wasn't ready, that maybe she wasn't. I said nothing. We went back to our dinners, smaller now. The group talked more, laughed louder. Mark started texting again. Little things. A photo of a dog with a lopsided face, a screenshot of a weird news story, a song I'd sent him 3 years ago that he said had randomly popped up. He never mentioned her again. Neither did I. A few months later, someone said Chloe had moved, out of state. New job, no social media, gone. And that should have felt like a win, but it didn't feel like anything. Not guilt, not victory, just balance. She had something that wasn't meant for her. I took it back. Reading these stupid threads tells me this stuff happens all the time. And yes, I am a real piece of shit.
It started as a mistake, not a plan. Kara had been dating Theo for about a year. He wasn't flashy, not the loudest guy, not the best looking, but he was sharp, quiet in the way people mistake for passive, but there was calculation under it. You could feel it when he looked at you too long across a room. I was her friend, not best friend, not the daily text kind, but enough that we got ready together before parties, tagged each other in memes, had the kind of Instagram history that makes it seem like you grew up together even if you didn't. She introduced him to me at a housewarming. I remember what I was wearing. I remember what he said. You don't talk like the rest of them. That's what did it, I think. That sentence. The first time it happened, it wasn't planned. One of those drunk late-night waiting for an Uber accidents. But the second time was, and the third. And after a while, it wasn't even about Kara. It was just about us. About how easy it was to keep something secret when no one suspected you. Theo worked in logistics, one of those warehouse office hybrids where everything runs on spreadsheets, half-truths, and desperate seasonal hires. He was a floor manager, but he knew more than he let on. Payroll, schedules, inventory systems. One night, post everything, he told me something. That the system they used to track time cards was so old it didn't flag duplicates. That if you knew the right ID number and had admin access, you could generate shifts for employees who'd been let go and clock them in and out manually. The money would hit the account tied to the ID, and no one would look twice because the volume of shifts was enormous. Hundreds of employees, daily rotations. I thought it was theoretical. It wasn't. He showed me a list. 10 names. Fired seasonal workers. Still in the system. He said, you could run payroll on every one of them for a month and nobody would notice until audit. And even then they'd blame HR. I asked him if he'd tried it. He said, no, but I've thought about it. That's when it stopped being just an affair. We got serious about it. Quiet. Structured. Started small. 2 names, a few hours a week. Money funneled into prepaid accounts tied to fake LLCs. He used a VPN. I bought burner cards. We ran a test cycle. It worked. By the 3rd cycle, we had 5 phantom employees earning overtime on holiday rates. Thousands, quietly flowing in. Kara never knew. She thought I was pulling away because I was going through something. That was her phrase, going through something. I let her think it. Let her invite me to coffee I didn't show up for. Let her ask if I'd seen Theo lately and say no. We kept the scam running for 3 months. We never talked about when it would end. But it did. Not because we got caught. Because we stopped trusting each other. I don't know if he thought I'd take the money and disappear, or if I thought he'd do it first. But something shifted. He started asking for access to the backup account I kept the excess in. I pretended not to hear him. He started coming over unannounced. I stopped answering the door. Then one night, Kara messaged me. Just one line. I know about you two. I stared at it for a long time. Then I messaged Theo. He didn't respond. An hour later, Kara posted a vague, dramatic story. Song lyrics, black background. One of those obvious breakup broadcasts. People started messaging. I said nothing. 2 days later, Theo quit his job. Said he was taking time off. Deactivated socials. Vanished. And then silence. Kara blocked me. The group chat stopped functioning. 2 people removed themselves. 3 others just ghosted. Like a drop of ink in a glass, everything cloudy, then gone. I waited. 3 weeks passed. No fallout. So, I moved the money. Closed the burners. Emptied the prepaid cards. Shifted everything into a personal account through a transfer scheme I'd set up months earlier just in case. I told Theo it was for protection. He never asked how it worked. The final total was just under $48,000. Not enough to vanish forever, but enough to change my life for a while. New city, new apartment, new version of me that didn't show up in tagged photos. And no one ever found out. Theo doesn't know I kept the full amount. He probably thinks I got caught or left the money behind. Maybe he thinks I fell bad. I didn't. Kara doesn't know the money ever existed. For her, the betrayal stopped at the affair. That's the headline she tells when someone brings up that year. And the rest of the group? Gone. Ghosted. Dead connections. Nobody asks what happened anymore. Which is exactly how I like it. That's what I did. And I'd do it again.
I have never cheated on anyone. Never stolen, never lied on a resume, never even parked in a disabled spot. But 3 people I used to call friends don't speak to me anymore. Not because I hurt them on purpose, but because their lives collapsed right after I got involved. I never meant to be the cause, but I've stopped pretending it's coincidence. The first was Morgan. We worked together in a boutique marketing firm in our 20s. She was engaged to a tall, math-brained finance type who wore fleece vests and called everything efficient. I hated him immediately, but I never said that. Morgan and I weren't best friends, but we shared the same eye rolls across meetings, the same tiny sighs when someone else took credit for our work. One night, we grabbed drinks after a late pitch, and I said something like, "You ever think about just leaving?" She laughed. "You mean the job?" I shrugged. Everything. It wasn't serious. It was the kind of thing you say when you're on your 3rd drink and someone finally asks how you're really doing. A week later, she invited me to her apartment to help pick colors for the kitchen. Her fiancé was home. Polite, stiff, offered me a LaCroix, and then went back to his spreadsheet like he couldn't believe real life had noise in it. That night, Morgan texted me. "Sometimes I think I'm with him because it's easy." I didn't reply. Not because I didn't care, because I knew how that sentence ends. I've heard it before. She left him 2 weeks later, said she needed space to breathe, moved into his sublet, started therapy, joined a co-ed softball league, the works. I thought she was doing better. Then I heard from someone at work that she'd taken a leave of absence, that she'd missed 3 deadlines, that her landlord had threatened eviction, that her ex-fiancé had started dating her former roommate, and that Morgan had smashed a vase in a bar bathroom for reasons unclear. She never blamed me. Not directly. But she never returned my texts either. The second was Lila. She had one of those people who peak early lives, student council president, varsity soccer, hometown engagement. By the time I met her, she'd married a guy from her college orientation group and was already planning a second kid. We met at a mutual friend's bachelorette weekend. I liked her immediately. She was smart, sarcastic, sharp in the way people usually dull down when they get married young. We shared a hotel bed and stayed up whispering until 3 a.m. talking about things people aren't supposed to say out loud, wanting out, feeling trapped, missing things you'd never admit you gave up willingly. After the weekend, we stayed in touch, just casual. Instagram DMs, memes, then longer messages. She started asking questions about how I lived alone, about what it felt like to travel without checking in, about how to bring something up without making it a fight. I told her what I'd tell anyone. You're allowed to want more. I didn't tell her to leave. She did anyway. Blew up her whole life. Left the house, the husband, the routine, moved into her sister's spare room with her toddler, posted cryptic captions about starting over. I sent her groceries once, a dumb little survival kit. Then the custody battle started, and the debt, and the new boyfriend who turned out to be worse in every way, but made her feel seen. Last I heard, she moved back in with her parents, deleted all her social media, even changed her number. I don't know if she's okay, but I know the timeline. It started with me. The third was the worst. Not because it was messier, because it almost didn't happen. Jules and I were never supposed to be close. We were in this same extended friend group, the kind of person you only see at birthdays or rooftop bars when someone else organized it. She was warm in a public way. Hugged everyone, took photos, said things like, "You look amazing," before even making eye contact. We became real friends after I left a party early. She followed me outside, said, "You don't seem like you like parties," and offered me a ride home. In the car, she told me her mother was sick, that she hadn't told most people, that she was tired of holding everyone else's energy. I told her she could text me anytime. She did. A lot. We became regulars at a little weekday wine bar. We started watching the same shows and texting in real time. She sent me a voice memo once while crying in the CVS parking lot because her prescription got delayed, and it felt like the last straw. I never asked for any of it, but I didn't stop it. Then came her boyfriend, Nick. I never liked him. Something in the way he laughed at his own jokes, the way he always sat at the head of a table like he'd been told it was a leadership move, the way he called her babe like it was a placeholder until he remembered her name. One night she brought him to drinks with me. He said something vaguely patronizing, I don't even remember what, and I said something back, subtle, sharp. He blinked at me like I'd slapped him. 2 weeks later, she asked me if I thought he was good for her. I paused. Then I said, "You already know what you think. You're just scared of what happens if you say it out loud." She broke up with him. The next day. The unraveling was fast, too fast. He retaliated, started showing up to group events with mutual friends, said things like, "She's not as nice as she pretends," claimed she cheated. One friend believed him, then another. People picked sides. They always do. Jules tried to clear it up, but it was like screaming underwater. No one heard the full version. She stopped coming out, stopped replying. I sent her a message. Said I missed her, said none of this is what I wanted. She never opened it. Now, if you looked at my life from the outside, I'm doing fine. Same apartment, same job, a quiet, curated online presence that makes it look like I'm endlessly productive and slightly amused. But if you map the exits, the women I got closest to, they're gone. Every single one. And I didn't lie. I didn't steal. I didn't cheat. I just didn't stop anything. They were standing on cliffs. I didn't push them. I just didn't hold them back. That's what I did. And no one ever says it was me, which is exactly why I'm writing this here. Because sometimes the damage doesn't come from cruelty. Sometimes it just comes from gravity. And I've always had more of it than I let on.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed your time here. There's an endless number of forgotten conversations and stories out there. I would love to see you again as I share them. Take care and stay well.